Well, hello, this is your girl, Agape Servant. So I told you all that I would come back with a word from Second Kings chapter 17. And I really got a real message from the Father, from Yahuwah. And we have to really be concerned about what's going on and a lot of things that are adding up if you read the word of the Most High. So I'm going to read a certain section and kind of explain this. This is not a teaching, but this is more so just a word that the Father has shared with me. And as I was writing, He was just pouring some things into me to speak to the people. So again, I don't claim to be a prophet or anything like that. I just give what the Father has given me. So listen, listen. In one of the Bibles I read, and I have many of them, so I'm kind of going to go from scripture to scripture. But why did Yahuwah punish Israel? And why is that so important for today? So I want you to listen, and then I'm gonna read the scripture, and then I'm gonna read what the Father just poured into my spirit to pour out to you. Again, please pay attention and be prepared. That's the key. I'm only here to purvey what He wants me to, or convey what He wants me to convey, and give you a word that hopefully makes sense to you, spiritually makes sense to you. Okay, so 2 Kings chapter 17, and I'm going to start at verse 14 and go to verse 17. And I'm going to read out of the Scripture Bible. I'm going to read out of the Easy English Bible, and then I may read out of the African History Bible. It just depends, because I'm trying not to make a long video. But anyway, so the first part I'm going to read out of the Scripture Bible, which has the terminology of Yah and the true names. It says, "But they did not listen and harden their necks." They were stiff-necked people, stubborn people, like the necks of their fathers, who did not put their trust in Yah, their Elohim. Remember, I had a video said, trust Yah. That was one thing He spoke to me. He said, my people got to trust me. No matter what's going on, trust me. And if we remember what happened in Exodus, when Moses was doing what he was doing with the people, they didn't trust when he left. They just fell apart. And they started doing everything, worshiping other gods, bringing in what the Egyptians had taught them, or they had been around that nation. Okay. Verse 15. And rejected His laws and His covenant. We got to understand the laws are the 10 commandments. The covenant are those 10 commandments, which makes us different from other nations. That's why it's always somebody saying they don't believe in the Bible, they don't believe in this, and the Bible's been reworded or whatever. But the Most High specifically said he had laws, and He had a covenant. When you have a covenant with somebody, that means you are bound together with them, like marriage. You're bound together with them. And two married people come together to agree, not to, if you're married, you're not to shame your husband. If your husband, he's not to shame you. We don't understand covenant. The Father made a covenant to make us different from other nations because He wanted people to see us as Him. Okay. So again, and rejected His laws and His commands that He had made with their fathers. He made a covenant. He made laws. Moses brought those laws down. That was a covenant between Yah and His people. We are His people, Israel. And His witnesses, which He had witnessed against them, and went after worthlessness and became worthless. So they went after the worthlessness of other nations, and they became worthless. And after the nations who were all around them of whom Yah had commanded them not to do like them. When the Father says we're in this world, but we're not of the world, as Hebrew Israelites, we're in this world, but we're not to act like the world. We're not to associate with their worldly things, with their pagan things, Christmas, Easter, marrying outside of our race or our covenant. Now, please understand, this is not about hating anybody, but this is about what the Father said. And he never wanted us to mingle with people who did not have like minds. So if you're marrying somebody, they need to have the same like mind as what you know from the word of Yah. Because if not, you're unequally yoked. Okay. Let me go back. He said worthlessness. And after the nations who are or who were all around them, of whom Yah had commanded them not to do like them. So we shouldn't be doing like the world. We should not be doing. We're a different breed of people. We should not be participating in some of the things that is okay for them. And verse 16, and they left all the commands of Yah. They left all the commands of Yah. What have we done? Church has taught us that we no longer have to. Jesus did away with that. No, he didn't. He became that. He became those laws. He became the covenant for us to act like and do like that covenant, which are the 10 commandments. He said, if you love me, you'll love my Father's commands. What commands is he talking about? Okay. He said, and they left all the commands of Yah, their Elohim, and made for themselves a molded image, 2 calves, and made an Asherah, I'm not sure how to pronounce this word, and bowed themselves to all the host of the heavens, and served Belial, who is the devil. Let me see if I can read this one out of another translation. Verse 16. He said, they turned away from all the commands of the Lord their God. They used metal to make images of 2 calves as their idols. They also made an it's Asherah, Asherah pole to worship They worshiped all the stars in the sky, and they served Baal. That's the devil. So when you read that, that's Hasatan. He changed them because they had been influenced by the nations around them to now start to worship idols. That's what the Father told us not to do. Let me go to 17. And I'm reading back out of the Scripture Bible. And caused their sons and daughters to pass through the fire and practice divination and sorcery and sold themselves to do evil in the eyes of Yahuwah to provoke him. Okay, y'all heard what I just said. Let me read it out of this one, out of the easy version, easy English version. 17. They burned their sons and their daughters in fire. Sacrifice. We just saw a sacrifice at the Democratic Party, the DNC. Where have you heard that word from? Many of you are if you're my age, DNC. Remember where that word came from. But it says right here in 17, 2 Kings 17:17, they burned their sons and their daughters in fire as offerings to Baal. They sacrifice. They're sacrificing our babies, killing our babies through abortion, because that is a burning. It's pulling out this fetus. It's pulling out this baby. And when I heard a doctor explain this, it choked my heart because I've had 2 abortions and I realized that, wow, but I did them in the early part. People who are having late-term abortions, this doctor talked about they put something in and they pull out the limbs of these tiny little babies. He finally gave up the practice. It was on YouTube. He finally gave up that practice because it hurt him. He had just lost a daughter through a car accident. And now when he went back, he started looking at what he was doing. And he found a conscience because he was pulling out. And he said they had to stack the little body parts, the little bitty limbs, arms and legs. And then the head would be like a little prune. And they would have to stack it and count them to make sure they got all of that baby out. Think about this. This is sacrifice. The whole DNC was about blood sacrifice. Okay. So I read all the way down, and that was an offering to the devil. So they're offering these sacrifices to the enemy, Hasatan. In verse, let's see. Then it says, they used magic to find out what would happen in the future. They chose to do things that the Lord said were evil. That made him very angry. That made the Father very angry because we began to do what the world was doing. Now, I told you I was going to read that. I'm not going to go into a full teaching because I try not to have a long video, and that's not my calling. My calling is to warn the people. That's what he's called me to back in 1990s. He called me to, he said, follow Ezekiel. Ezekiel is mine. What I found out about that is Ezekiel's name means God will save, or God will strengthen. And Ezekiel's job was, or his calling was, to warn the people in Babylon, the Israelite people in Babylon, to stop and think. Ezekiel went through a lot of things. People thought he was crazy, but really he was trying to warn the people. He didn't want to, but Yah called him. Yah called me to this. Okay, so let me read what the Most High gave me. He said, we care more about abortion and gender rights than we do about our economy. Where will true Americans live other than the streets? How will they feed themselves other than go hungry or eat from the trash? How can they keep their families safe from violent people coming from other countries? Our vote should make us think, not pander our flesh. If we followed Yah's plan with not fornicating before marriage, and men would find a wife, not a booty call, Proverbs 18:22, I'm reading it just the way the Father told me to write it, we wouldn't have to have abortions. If mankind would not involve themselves in so much perversion and lust, rape and incest would not be out of control. If mankind would follow the moral laws of the Bible, there may not be so much chaos and confusion. What are you watching around you? Confusion. This person talking about this person, that person talking about that person. And this whole political arena has just been slang mud at that person sling mud back. And everybody has their agenda, but they don't have policies to tell you what they're going to do to help the American people, and especially the ones Yah called and called his chosen. America, you need to protect your melanated black people. You need to protect us because we are your blessing. That's how this America was made, off of the backs of Yah's people. Okay. There may be so much chaos and confusion, but we have so many religions that come against the word, inspired because they don't believe Yahuwah was who he is, the I am that I am. We have so many people trying to find new ways to a higher being that they submit to whatever will please themselves. Whatever will please themselves. Self-gratification is the new religion. Self-gratification is the new religion. I'm going to say this. Self-gratification. We're overweight. We're oversexed. We're lustful. We're greedy. Now, people don't think masturbation, something's wrong with masturbation, but that's self-gratification, and it opens you up to the pandering of Hasatan to get you into lust. I'll just say that. Self-gratification is the new religion. This is the new religion. Find something that pleases your flesh. Aleister Crowley, who was a demonic Satanist, said, "Do as thy wilt." Do as thy wilt. That means do whatever you want to please your flesh. Okay, but what you don't see is this, is demonic and many legions. That was mentioned in the Bible. Legions. I am legions. So we're entertaining many legions. And when I talk about legions, when I say I'm not religious, think of the word of religion. R-E-L-I-G-I-O-N. Religion. But if you separate R-E, put a dash between L-I-G-I-O-N. If you took and changed or spoke that I in an E, like we learned in school, many legions. Religion is many legions. Notice we have all kind of religions. The Father only had one. His word. That's it. His body. That's it. But Egyptians, when they came out of Egypt, they were coming out of all of those legions, all of those demonic statues. They were worshiping. They were building images to worship. And what are we doing today? Building images to worship. Whether it be building a home that's something that two people may not need to live in. I remember looking at J-Lo and Ben in a $65 million home with 9 or 10 bedrooms, with so many bathrooms. Y'all don't have that many children. Why are we having to live in idols or images that are of Hasatan? Because that's what he wants us to do. I don't understand it. Why do you have 16 cars? Why do you need a jet to fly around the country? Why do you need to have a $900 shirt? I just heard a word about a pastor wearing a $900 shirt. Come on. And you're begging for money from your congregation who can't afford to buy food. Okay. This is the last part. This election is about who you will sell your soul to. Okay, people. This election is who you will sell your soul to. Now, you need to be praying. You need to be really understanding the Bible. I don't care what nobody says. The Bible makes more sense than anything else. I'm not going with all these other religions and what they're saying. The Bible is inspired by Yahuwah. I don't care who wrote it. They may have translated it and whatever, but the bottom line, if you are a spiritual person, You will understand when you read this, and you don't have to worry about this version, that version. Just read all of them collectively and put it together, because we already know the King James Version. I read the King James 1611. Some of the words in there are not spelt like our regular English version. And those translations were translated in many different languages. So you take and gather from the Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh. Gather from him, and you will understand the truth. Stop this religion mess. Stop with these pastors who are telling you stuff that does not line up with the word. Because eventually you're selling your soul. And if any of your pastors are telling you to vote for Kamala Harris, you are selling your soul. Donald Trump, I don't know, but I'm seeing a whole lot of stuff that's coming against him. And Yah put certain kings who were not desirable. Yah put them in place. You need to be praying that you make a right decision in your vote of who you're going to vote for. But again, listen to this message again. I'm your girl, Agape Servant. Toodles.